A living wage. That's what a coalition of advocates and community agencies that support individuals with disabilities have been calling for in our state. The focus of that fight, the more than 120,000 New Yorkers who work with and care for individuals with disabilities. They're called direct support professionals, and they're in chronic short supply. That's according to the New York State chapter of the ARC. While the governor allocated $55 million in the budget this year to support a wage increase for these professionals working with nonprofits, is that enough to recruit, train, and sustain employees? Joining me to answer that question and provide a picture of the critical nature of this profession is Val Largent, direct support professional with the ARC of Monroe, and Wendy McCarthy, association manager for the Developmental Disabilities Alliance of Western New York. Welcome to both of you. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So just to begin, I want to ensure that people tuning into this program right now, that they have a solid understanding of what direct support professionals do, like the nitty-gritty, what this job involves. And Val, would you break that down so people have a full picture understanding?
On a day-to-day basis, we provide support to people that have disabilities. We offer activities to them. We assist them with social skills and hygiene and recreation. It's just so much that we do during the course of a day, and it's only usually there are 8 hours, but in those 8 hours, you've done at least 12 hours worth of work.
And I want to know, and I'd like for both of you to kind of give your input on this, what do you think the care system would look like for individuals with disabilities and their families if this profession did not exist?
I think it'd be very challenging for them. I think I work in a day hab. I think when our individuals that come in receive the support that they receive from us, it allows the families to take a breath and maybe assist other family members that they may need to take care of besides the ones, that have the disabilities and stuff. So I think it provides relief for them. Also support for them. They can come to day hab and they have other services that they receive at the day hab services. So.
The aim of direct support professional and working with people with developmental disabilities can vary, and I know that Val talked a little bit about that. So you'll see direct support professionals assisting people in the community, shopping, at church, and also at home if they're living with family members, at work and at school. So it's a really broad scope, but the aim is to assist people to live more meaningful lives.
It's interesting, this past spring I read a New York Daily News article. It was called Revisiting the Atrocities, and this article was in relation to Willowbrook State School in Staten Island. This was a horrific facility. It made national news, and it was a state-run center for kids and adults, for people watching who are unfamiliar with this. And it made national news and led to legislation because of the horrific nature and the inhumane treatment for those living there. And I want to know, changes were made after Willowbrook. How haven't our direct support professionals played a role in this transition from living in a facility where they are directly depending on people, or a lack thereof, in the nature of Willowbrook, to more community-type settings or even independent living? How do direct support professionals assist with that?
Our program, one of the programs that I am, we do a lot of volunteer-based work. So we go to Goodwill, and we're at FoodLink, and we're at other places, the public market, working on their gardens. We do lots of inclusion, whereas before there wasn't as much inclusion. And I think it's very important for the people that we service to be included in those activities. And I think that moving forward, that change has helped assist with training DSP staff to understand that you don't take a person's disability, you take their abilities and give them a chance to grow.
Yeah. And I would add to that over the last 40 or 50 years, we've moved away from institutionalization, more community involvement, as Val said. That work used to be done by the state, and more it's being done by nonprofit organizations. The real issue is that those nonprofit organizations receive almost 90% of their funding from Medicaid. So there's a state portion and a federal portion. And they don't have the ability to raise fees, as the demand for higher salaries in those positions go up. But our goal with the Be Fair to Direct Care campaign is to raise awareness about the need for a living wage, a fair wage for these very important positions that are supporting individuals and families with developmental disabilities.
And I want to get into that campaign. And first, I've read that the average salary of direct support professionals is between $21,000 and $22,000 in New York. Is that approximately accurate, would you say?
I would say so, yeah.
So the New York Association of Community and Residential Agencies came out with a report called Direct Support Professionals, the Front Line of Change. Very interesting report. They spoke with DSPs throughout New York to hear about their experiences. Many working second jobs, many working 60 to 80 hours a week to survive. And you mentioned this a little bit. I want to dig into this a little bit more. Why is this happening? We have this position being called critical and important for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and for their families. How is it that they're not able to make a living wage in our state?
I think that the agencies that are helping people to get those services desperately want to be able to offer living wages, to offer something more than the $20,000. But again, without an increase in that Medicaid rate, it's tough to do, and agencies don't want to turn people away from services. So it's just a multitude of factors. There's also a really high turnover rate in this type of position, which adds to the cost. We hate to see someone who's doing a great job working as a DSP, they know the individual or the family they're working with well, and then they leave to take a position that pays 50 cents more an hour. That's a real tragedy for the family and the individual.
I want to talk about this a little bit more in terms of the repercussions of low salaries for direct support professionals. You mentioned they'll have to leave and take a job in which they might make 50 cents more. Some work, other jobs, 60 to 80 hours a week. How does this high turnover, how does it impact not just DSPs, but also individuals with disabilities and their families?
I think it hurts them. They need consistency. I mean, people like consistency in their life, and I think they deserve consistency. That's the main thing, I think. I think the people that are being hurt are the people that we're servicing, and they shouldn't have to, because their preferred staff or staff that's consistent, has been there for them, has to leave to go to a job that they may not even want to do. So, yeah, I think it's the people we support that suffer the most.
My colleague Karen Shakurji covered the Be Fair to Direct Care campaign, which we'll talk about in just a moment, and she spoke with the family who said, we don't know who may come next week to support our child, because they see different faces, and you mentioned the word consistency, and that's exactly what they said. They said that's key. They want to know that they have someone, and this is about longevity, that will continue to be there, although they understood the reason that they may need to leave to take something to support themselves or to support their families. This Be Fair to Direct Care campaign, for viewers, they're tuning in and they're unaware of what this means. This is about helping direct support professionals receive a living wage. Both of your respective organizations are involved in this effort, and I understand that this year's state budget, as I mentioned, was considered a win. So the governor allocated, he was aware of this campaign, allocated $55 million in the state budget to support DSPs. So then my question is $55 million enough, or is this, are you just getting started?
We're just getting started. Yeah. This was part of a 6-year plan that we have to raise the salaries of DSPs across the state to a living wage. The $55 million was the first phase of this. And so Be Fair to Direct Care is just getting started, really. We're going to ask everyone who sees your show, who has a family member with a developmental disability, works in the field, or cares about this issue, to join in our movement to keep Be Fair on the radar. Reach out to your elected officials, let them know that this is an important issue. I'd be shocked if there's anybody out there who is not familiar with this issue that's working in the field, because it's a critical situation right now.
I want to ask you, Val, you talked about what a benefit and how families benefit from what you do, but you also mentioned that DSPs, they don't want to take another job because they love what they're doing. What is it about your position that you enjoy so much?
It is being able to watch people grow. Going from being able to wipe half of a table to being able to wipe the entire table by themselves. I mean, it's just an amazing feeling. I get bubbly and just warm. I always talk about my job and the excitement. I recommend people to be DSPs. It is just a wonderful experience. I feel privileged to work with them.
In addition to, we mentioned the low wages that is part of this Be Fair to Direct Care. What are other challenges associated with this job that maybe in the news have gone under the radar just a bit, but that both of you want people to be aware of?
I think it's just, I don't think that people are really, I'm not sure how to say this. I don't think people really understand the impact that a DSP worker has and the responsibilities that they have. You are responsible for your human life. If you're not doing your job effectively, the outcome could be terrible. I mean, I think people, if you have a loved one, or if you don't know a person with disability, get to know one. You will find out that the love that they have, the passion that they have, is the same as anyone else. They want the same things that we want. They want happiness, and I think the challenges come in when, again, no consistency with their service coordinator, or no consistency with their staff, their van drivers. I mean, anyone that has contacted them. When they lose that, we see a change in their behaviors. When you are a DSP, you know your people, you're supposed to know your people, and we see that it hurts them. And I think that that's the things that people don't see, is the impact that it has on the people that we service.
And your position is a highly trained position, too. I mean, you go through an extensive amount of training to be able to do exactly what you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're always being trained.
So, Wendy, if changes are not made in the near future when it comes to the healthcare field, and I'm talking particularly the care of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and people like Val who are supporting them and working with them, what does that mean for them as they age? Because I've read about families who are concerned as parents get older, they have some real concerns as to what will happen to their young person.
Right. Well, you know, what we've found in the last several years is that there's a movement to help people in their homes as opposed to moving to a group home setting. So I think that we need to have more resources devoted toward that, more respite opportunities, more day have opportunities, so that folks are not isolated in their homes. They have an opportunity to go out into the community.
Well, you talked a little bit about this. People are watching, and many of the people watching right now, they may have family members with intellectual or developmental disabilities receiving support from direct care professionals. After listening to this discussion, you said reach out to your elected officials. What else would you suggest they do to get involved in this Be Fair to Direct Care campaign?
Well, they can visit. We have a Facebook page. It is the letter B.
And I've got this, yep.
Okay, Fair to Direct Care. Just put that in your search for Facebook, and it'll come up. Like our page. Same thing with Twitter. Like it, follow it, retweet it. We need to spread the word.
Well, we have to close for now. So to my guests, I really appreciate both of you being here and for weighing in on this issue. And you can learn more about the work of direct support professionals and also the continued advocacy of the Be Fair to Direct Care campaign. So just go to, as Wendy was saying, facebook.com/Be Fair to Direct Care. And I should note September 10th through the 16th is Direct Support Professional Recognition Week. So learn how to get involved in the celebration of this profession at nationaladvocacycampaign.org.